Wow, it's almost there. Wow.
I'm almost there.
Living on a prairie.
Whoa.
Like Clint
We're
Eastwood in the movie.
halfway there.
He's living on a prairie. Little house on that prairie, too.
Oh.
Yeah.
We're halfway there. Prairie.
Prairie.
Whoa.
Cows are full of dairy. What do you think?
There are none.
Shut up.
There's no IMDb trivia.
You're right. Well, I have stuff written down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Ben.
Yeah.
Ben.
Damn it! You always do this.
What do you mean?
Start recording.
What are you talking
I'm not
about?
ready about. I see it. I see it recording.
Ready for what?
I see it recording right now.
What? You see what recording?
I'm just gonna go back to being quiet and
Okay.
pretending like there's no show happening because
What?
that's what you
There
wanted.
is no show happening. We're just hanging out like good pals here.
Yeah, that.
We're just good friends. You hang out and
You
and-
know that's
and
an
hug.
illusion. It's an illusion.
I don't. Well, that's the
Our-
Matrix.
Our friendship is an illusion to the viewer, to the listener.
Ow.
But luckily, they don't have to know that.
That's true. Here on the podcast, we're not doing a podcast. We're just hanging out.
Where are we hanging out at, Marshall?
What are you talking about? This is.
Where is this place I find myself
Well,
in?
Welcome, everyone. This is a podcast. I lied. But it is not Ben and Marshall do a podcast.
Oh, we're recording.
What? I just started recording just now.
Oh, great.
I just pressed the button.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
good. So you're okay. That's fine. Yeah, great.
Actually, here in the lounge, there is just microphones in all the walls embedded.
Oh my gosh.
So everywhere you are, there is a podcast happening at any given moment.
This
It's
place
like
is-
Clubhouse.
this place is bugged.
Yeah, it's a literal Clubhouse.
Wow. Kind of like a Big Brother situation.
Little Big Brother sister situation.
Yeah, that one reality show.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
not like Big Brother's watching you, but like
Oh,
the show Big Brother.
yeah.
Big Brother.
Big Brother.
Big Brother.
Yeah, except we don't make out with each other.
We do not.
That is true. Don't wink at me.
But so, welcome to the Cinema Lounge. This is
the
a new
Cinema
show.
Lounge.
The Cinema Lounge.
Marshall, what happened to Ben and Marshall to do a podcast?
Well, you see, I've been reading, and this is a
that's-
dangerous thing
that's
to happen.
good. That's good.
Yeah, so I've been learning things. I've been getting knowledge, big brain. And if there's anything I like more than my Lamborghini, it's knowledge. So let me tell you about this knowledge that I've gotten.
Tell me, please. Enlighten me. Enlighten us all. So wait, so you got rid of Ben and Marshall do a podcast,
Yeah, I guess.
but it is still Ben and Marshall doing a podcast.
The two of us are still doing a podcast.
Okay.
I
Don't be
will
deceived,
now be
everyone.
forced to change the email, which is my main reason for getting you as a co-host
my
after the
gosh.
old Weber.
Right. Was that you didn't want to ever change
I
the
didn't want
email.
to change the email, but
And
now I will.
Here we are. So you can get rid of me now if you want.
Yes.
You don't have
That's
to
why I
be
haven't finished the drawing yet.
you don't finish the face. Just always leave the face blank.
Exactly.
There you go.
But basically, one of the main things that they pointed out was in the book, the
the
McElroy
book.
brothers,
Oh, okay.
who are like the kings of podcasting, essentially. They were like the family of podcasting.
Uh-huh.
They have like 1,000 podcasts, and they're all pretty successful.
Uh-huh.
The number one being My Brother and Me, or Mabim Bam, as it is often called. It's the shortened version.
It's
If
really
you
not
really-
that much more shortened, but yeah.
But it's
Anyway,
fun to say.
It is more fun to say.
And easier to say, mildly. But one of the things they talk about is that if you, like, it's really hard to get a podcast off the ground. It's super hard. Like, at the beginning of the game, anybody could make a thing. Like, Mark Maron is probably really popular now, mostly because he was just one of the first people.
Right.
The same thing with them. They kind of got in a little bit early, and they had a following from Griffin and Justin co-founded Polygon, the website. So they had a bit of a following there from doing their Polygon podcast called
Right.
Besties, which is
Yeah.
also back again on Spotify, which is pretty good. And so unless you are like famous, like Mark Maron,
Yeah, you have some knowledge to impart
yeah,
with the world.
or you
Yeah.
have a following of some sort,
Right.
it's really hard to get a show off the ground. So in that vein, whatever you're doing on your show should be something very specific to you that you can talk about in a very unique, specific way, something that you're passionate about. which for me is movies. And I know that you really enjoy movies too, and we like talking about movies together.
Yeah.
Which then is the second piece of advice: is find someone that you already like talking to and talk about something that you would like talking about with them in the first place.
My reasoning behind the show, well, not the whole reasoning, but a piece of it was like, even if people don't really listen to us, I really like watching movies and talking to Marshall about them. So like, if anything, it's a time in my week where I get to sit down and have a fun conversation with you about a movie. So it's like,
exactly. Yeah. If you want to get a tiny bit closer to the mic, I'm getting a little worried.
Yes.
You can pull it towards you.
I can just scoot my chair up.
It is movable. You are movable.
Everything's movable. Hello.
Everything's a drum.
Is mayonnaise an instrument?
Is mayonnaise an instrument? So that's the second piece of advice. And then the final thing to get to the main point here is that with all of that, if you aren't famous, if you don't have a huge following, if like you don't have a specific exact thing your show is about necessarily, why is your title of your podcast your names?
Right.
Because that neither draws people in because they don't know who you are, and it doesn't explain what the show is at all.
Yeah.
So this is something that I've been thinking about before I even read the book.
No one really is. You're not going to listen to Ben and Marshall do a podcast when you don't really care or know.
Yeah, if you just saw Ben and Marshall do a podcast on your Spotify Discover, you're going to be like, that's a cool cover art, probably won't listen to it.
Well, they might say that. It's art, though, so it's really subjective.
That's true.
Objective? Subjective.
It's objectively perfect.
It's subjectively imperfect.
Objectively, according to God, he told me himself,
Wow.
It's perfect.
This is theology.
Welcome to the new Ben and Marshall podcast.
Cinema Theology Lounge.
Sixth baptism.
So anyway, so and you see that in our listeners.
The Cinema Thea Lounge.
The people who who's Thea? The people who listen to us are people who know who you and I are. Yeah. So this is a step in a professional direction as we find our identity.
Yeah, and I've wanted to change the name for a while. So this is what it's become, is after I did Marshall Does a Podcast last week, I kind of had the epiphany of, this is it. This is what the show should be. Because I had a huge positive response to that. Like, people were telling me, like, I loved the jazz in the background, the fireplace and everything like that. And it just felt like a really cool, like, relaxing, enjoying show to listen to. I was like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
So... I said specifically in that episode, I was trying to make it feel like a cigar lounge. So then in my head, I thought immediately, it's the Cinema Lounge.
Cinema Lounge.
Yes.
Which is a real place that we
are in.
That we are in right now. We are in the cinema.
Yeah,
we're in a Cinema Lounge right now. There's like a little bit of haze in the air.
Yeah.
I'm sipping a Scotch whiskey. That's redundant. It's Scotch.
A Scotch whiskey.
And
you can be real. It's a Scotch whiskey.
There is a fireplace here. It's crackling. A couple fresh logs we just threw on. I'm holding my pipe. I'm smoking. What am I smoking? Some Sutliff nougat.
Oh.
Perhaps later I'll switch to some Dunhill Nightcap. One of my favorite tobaccos.
I am chewing some nougat.
You're a nougat. Oh, very fancy.
From a Three Musketeers bar.
Right. Only the finest chocolates here in the Cinema
nougat
Lounge.
Chocolate bar.
That's the thing, is actually it's all just cinema food. So it's
all cinema food.
There's only dots, like Sour Patch Kids, and Three Musketeers.
Those little bags with 3 tiny Oreos in them.
Yep. Yeah. That's all the food we have here.
But it's delicious.
It is delicious.
The chef, Alphonse, is amazing. Alphonse is our chef here at the lounge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He bakes pizza and popcorn.
Yes. They're very thin pizzas.
That's the only option.
Extremely crusty, thin pizzas that are cut into squares.
Yes.
But they do deliver it to you to your seat, which is nice.
That's great. Even in the lounge.
Even here in the lounge.
To the seat. We'll have an order later, maybe. That'd be great.
We'll see.
Thank you. So... Anyway, what else? I'm setting the scene. There's some artwork on the wall.
Movie posters.
A movie poster.
There's lots of there's like shelves of films.
Films.
Film reels.
Film reel.
VHS tapes.
And then there's also like a classy section. We have like some William Shakespeare and some
good old Wilhelm.
Yeah. Yes, that's the one. That's the one. And yeah, me and Marshall are sitting here in armchairs, or are these armchairs?
Yeah, we're here in our large leather armchairs,
wearing our smoking
jackets. Our red velvet smoking jackets.
Red velvet smoking jackets, and
we've got our pipes.
We are smoking.
Yes.
Pipe tobacco.
Yes.
And the theater is just down the hall.
Yeah, there is an in-house theater.
There is an in-house theater.
Yeah,
correct.
Which is run by Geppetto.
Gnomes. Oh, Geppetto.
Geppetto and his staff of gnomes.
He's
who are the waiters.
Yeah, and he's like, it's an old-fashioned, so he's the one that like switches out the film reel. Right,
exactly.
Yeah, right. So Geppetto and his gnomes.
Geppetto and his staff of gnomes who bring him the film reels.
Is it a live jazz combo in the corner?
Yeah, there is
the live jazz combo. Yeah.
And what's their name?
They're the three-hole trio.
The three-hole trio. And what does that explain? Explain that with
the three holes implying the trumpet hole,
yes.
the saxophone hole, and sometimes a flute hole. And those are the three-hole trio.
All of those things just have one hole in them?
Yeah, but actually what's playing right now is an upright bass, a drum, a piano, and I'm assuming a saxophone, I think. And so it's really weird because it's not actually even a trio.
Oh.
It's a there's four of them. They picked up the bass player.
And sometimes it sounds like there's more or less.
Yeah, depending on how things are going.
Yeah, and they're playing a wonderful suite of royalty-free jazz music.
Yeah, which
is very convenient.
They don't want to get sued.
They don't.
Right.
It's expensive to license out music to play live.
Right.
Exactly. For a paying audience.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, welcome to the Jazz Lounge, the
Cinema Lounge.
The Cinema
Jazz
Lounge
is an offshoot podcast that we're going to start next week.
I would be about that. That would be fun for me.
Let's talk about Count Basie.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
I'm not knowledgeable enough.
My favorite jazz standard is Take 5 by the Dave Brubeck Trio.
Wow, good, Marshall.
Yeah.
That's an iconic standard there.
Sing it.
That's great. How does Take 5 go?
Go ahead.
I don't actually remember how Take 5 goes.
Wow.
If I heard it, I would say, that's Take 5.
Yeah, it's...
That's nice, yeah, that's good.
And there we go. We can't get sued for that.
Yeah, nope. Anyway,
unrecognizable.
So welcome to the Cinema Lounge, everybody. This is the new format of the show.
Yes.
It's us sitting, smoking our pipes, drinking our whiskey.
Yes.
Talking about movies we love. The issue, Marshall, is going to be if we ever record this in the morning. I don't think I'm in the mood for a whiskey at 8:30 or 9. So
don't worry about it.
We might have to.
They also serve Mountain Dew.
Have you seen that video of Shaun White? Come on, you've had to have seen this. Okay, so it's after Shaun White wins like Olympic gold.
Yeah.
And they were like, so Shaun, what was it like after you won gold? He's like, oh man, it was crazy. We were all hanging out. We had drinks. It was so good. And she goes, wait a minute, Shaun, you're under 21. He's like, I'm talking about Mountain Dew, baby. And it's like a classic. Mountain Dew, baby. We'll post a link later in the show.
Chili so hot, I drink a 2 liter of Mountain Dew.
It's what seen that one? No, I haven't.
That's pretty good. Wow.
We'll post this in the show notes later.
Yeah.
Anyway,
here in the lounge this week, we have watched a movie.
Yeah.
In the theater that Geppetto was running, and his gnomes. Geppetto was gracious enough to put on one of my favorite films, Unforgiven, directed and starring Clint Eastwood of Western and other film fames. Fames?
Fames?
Fames. Fame. That's the David Bowie song.
That is the song. Directed, written by as well?
No, he did not write it. It was David Weber Peoples.
Was it written in the 1960s?
No.
50? The script existed. The concept was an old concept.
Yes.
I saw.
The script, I think that he first got the script in the 80s.
Okay.
Gene Hackman passed over the role of William Money originally. And then it came to Eastwood. He held the rights for a long time, saying, oh, well, I'm just not sure I want to make it. In reality, he said that he was just waiting until he was old enough to play William Money, which I think is kind of funny. He's like, I'm not going to let anyone else do this but me. But it was around for a long time, going to a lot of different directors. There were other people on online on the hook to play William Money for a while there, and I can't remember who it was. I think it got offered to John Malkovich at one point.
Oh, interesting.
Which is weird. And he said himself, like, I could not have, that would have been terrible. And I agree. I love John Malkovich. This is not a role for him. But yeah, I love this movie. Yeah. Came out in 1993.
It did. It won awards as Best Picture,
Best Director,
and
he did not win Best Actor.
He was nominated.
Yes,
but did not win it.
Yeah.
Yes. So it won Best Picture that year. Pretty cool. I don't know what it was up against. Maybe I can do a quick Google search while you're talking later on. But overarching plot of the movie, if you haven't seen it, go watch
tell me what it's
it.
About.
Go watch it. Come back. Overarching plot.
It's on HBO.
It's on HBO Max. If you're subscribing to that, if you aren't yet, you should, because it seems like we keep watching movies on HBO. So maybe try that out.
That's where all the best stuff is.
Now. There's a lot of good. If you're about good movies, check out HBO. Anywho. Overarching plot is there is a little town called Whiskey. Oh.
Whiskey Run?
River. Whiskey Run.
Big Whiskey.
Yeah. Big Whiskey.
Yeah. Just like the ones that we have in our hands.
Yes. There is this town called Big Whiskey, and it's in Montana, Wyoming.
Well, they came from Kansas.
There. Yeah. But they came up through Kansas to get up there, wherever it was. I want to say...
It's not important.
It's not important. There's a little town. It's run by a sheriff by the name of Little Bill.
Yep.
Not to be confused with the TV show written and produced by Bill Cosby.
Yeah. Is that a thing?
That is a thing,
Ugh.
yeah. So, anyway, Little Bill runs the show up there. He says... This is going to be an upright place. Mm-hmm. No guns allowed here. And he runs the show with kind of a bit of an iron fist, passive aggressively.
Yeah.
And there is a bar in town that has a little billiards room attached to it.
Ooh, billiards, you say?
If you go and ask to play billiards, you'll be throwing your cue into some balls into the corner pocket. And by that we mean if you ask to play billiards, you're asking for a prostitute.
There you go.
So
okay, we got there.
The prostitutes there are two cowboys who come into town. They want to play billiards. One of the cowboys, apparently, one of the prostitutes makes fun of his gun. And we all know what gun I'm talking about. Instead of having a big Colt Peacemaker, he's got a little Derringer. So makes fun of his Derringer, and she, or at least maybe chuckles about it.
Yeah.
And he decides to cut her up because of it. Pulls out his knife, slices her face up, maims her body.
Yeah.
And the rest of the prostitutes, in revenge, put out a bounty on his head. They gather all their money together, say, anybody who comes up here and kills these two cowboys that came into town will get $1,000.
Yeah, because the only retribution that Little Bill was going to offer was played by Gene Hackman, amazingly by Gene Hackman, who's always wonderful. Weirdly, I think one of the weaker performances in this movie, but I think that's only because everyone else is so stellar.
Good. Yeah.
The only justice that he offers up is, how many ponies do you guys have? Because Skinny, who runs the bar, says, well, this is damaged property.
Right.
They're like, they've damaged my property. I want retribution. So Little Bill says, okay. Like, so this is like a damaged property, like a pony. So how many ponies do you have? Give us this many.
Right.
So that's all. And the prostitutes are not satisfied with that, understandably.
Yeah. Right, exactly. So Little Bill, he's always kind of taken the side of, he's not really about like true justice or
whatever's going to stop trouble from popping up, that's what he wants.
And he empathizes with the troublemakers a little bit.
Yeah.
Or he's coming from this background of he had his wild days back in the day, and so now he's settling down. He's building a house throughout the movie, and he's trying to say, we're keeping the troublemakers at bay, even if it means that we're cracking down hard on some of this stuff.
Yeah, he's stopping trouble, not necessarily in the most moral means.
Anyway, we're introduced to William Money.
William Money.
William Money, played by Clint Eastwood. He is a pig farmer with him and his two kids. He is a widower.
That's the word.
Widower.
Yep.
That's the word I'm looking for. He's a widower. His wife passed away a couple years ago. He's down on his luck. The pigs have the fever. It's not going well for him. And lo and behold, a guy shows up and says, "Hey, William Money, I've heard about you. You're a legend. Come and kill these guys with me."
Yeah.
And he turns him down at first and then realizes...
Money don't have no money. He needs the money.
Exactly. So he heads out. He picks up... He leaves his kids at home. He goes... He gets back on the horse. So he seems to be a man of fame, and we slowly are... enlightened to that over the course of the movie. We learn a little bit by little bit the mystical things that he has done. Supposedly. We find more and more out about how true or not true they are. Mm-hmm. He's a guy with a troubled past. In the past, we learned he's killed men, women, and children.
Sand people.
He's a very Anakin Skywalker situation. Yeah.
So yeah, they go and get Morgan Freeman.
He goes and gets Morgan Freeman.
And then they go and try to do this bounty. Basically.
They go and do the bounty.
And that's the thing.
Yeah, that's kind of the big motivation.
That's the driving force.
Yeah, exactly that. It's been 10 years, something like that.
10, 11 years
since his crazy his drunk days of riding around, being the stereotypical Western bad guy / good guy. Maybe that's the issue.
That is kind of the thing.
Let's talk about that, Marshall.
I love this movie. This was my movie that I brought to the show this week to the lounge. Mm-hmm. I brought my personal film reel to Geppetto and the Gnomes and had them restore it and put it up for us.
Right. Uh-huh.
And we screened it for ourselves and the other patrons of the lounge.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Patreons.
Mm-hmm. Maybe. And I don't know what that was.
That's fine.
And
you love this movie.
I love this movie. I think it's amazing. And part of why I love this movie is because I have a great love for the classic Clint Eastwood westerns. Uh-huh. That being like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, A Fistful of Dollars for a few dollars more, The Outlaw Josie Wales, all this kind of stuff. As well as, tons of other like classic westerns, The Searchers. I got a few others written down here. The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. Mm-hmm. All these things. And this movie, and it's funny that we were talking about off show that we were going to watch Starship Troopers because it's a movie along with Fight Club that often people watch the movie and get a different message out of it. I would say that Fight Club is a movie, like those two are two movies that people watch that and they don't get it. This is a movie that is drawing you in, making you think it's one thing, and then tells you a completely different story, and it does that successfully. And I think this is the best movie I've ever seen do that. Where you're used to seeing Clint Eastwood do Dirty Harry and The Man with No Name, who is like killing indiscriminately.
Yeah, gun for hire.
Yeah, and he's a legend, and he can like get 5 guys in as many seconds, and it's like...
And it's nothing to him.
Yeah.
He moves on.
Exactly.
Walks away, takes the money, or...
Yeah, I mean, me and Weber did an episode on the Fistful of Dollars. Mm-hmm. And there's the iconic moment in that is the beginning of the movie, when he comes into town, and he's riding in on a donkey, and some of the guys in the town are making fun of him, and he turns around and he's like, "You better apologize to my donkey because he's getting kind of sad, and he doesn't take kindly to people making fun of him," and they're getting offended because they're like, "This guy's insane, he's an idiot." Mm-hmm. And right before that, he's told the coffin maker, "All right, get 3 coffins ready." Uh-huh. And then he goes bang, 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 and gets 4 of them like it's nothing, walks over, "My mistake, 4 coffins." Like, it's this badass like line, and it's hilarious, and it's great. But in the context of that movie, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
If that were to happen in this, it would come across as insanely like dark and cold-hearted.
Right. I think it's like those movies are like watching or listening to like men of legend, or like you hear the stories and you go, "Wow, what a legend he was," or what like
exactly
like aha, that's funny, that's like that's ironic, like that's what these guys had it coming to them.
Yeah.
And this movie takes that, and if all the other Western films have been stuff of legend, that's what's in the background of this movie is like, I've heard this legend that you killed 4 guys and had to go tell the coffin maker. You know, like I've heard, like, is it true?
Yeah.
Like, and it's almost as if this is like the reality, or this is.
Well, that's I've got that written here somewhere. What is it? Yeah. One of the things I've written here is one of the things this movie does very well is deconstructing the Western anti-hero, good versus evil archetype. It treats movies like the Dollars trilogy as the sort of legendary stories that they would have heard in the world this movie creates.
Right.
Unforgiven continually shows the heroes and villains as fallible, realistic, and not legendary at all.
Right.
Even in the last moment when Will cuts loose, he still is shooting like slow and steady.
Yes.
Like a regular person, but even like still a very skilled regular person. And it comes back to this a ton. Like you get the sense that like William isn't really a good farmer, that maybe his wife was the one who had the know-how and he was just kind of a working hand. So he's just trying to get this going, but all he knows is the violence.
Right.
The same thing with like Little Bill. It's all these guys that are trying to move on from their past.
Right.
That people think of as legendary, but they see as like a ghost that they're trying to get rid of.
Right. Yeah. They're living with the PTSD of the things of their past.
Yeah.
Or they are living with, you know, like let's go back to that example again. You kill the 4 guys.
Yeah.
And then within this movie that happens, and then the character lays in bed at night and says, and replays it and goes, I ended those guys' lives. Like, what does that mean? Like, like I took it away. I took away. What does it say?
He says, I got it. It's the moment when Schofield Kid has killed the final guy because he's been raring to go. He's like, I'm gonna kill a man, and it's gonna be great, and I'm gonna be awesome. I'm gonna be a legend like you.
So the young buck, to go back to the story, the young buck who originally approaches Money says, they join up, and then he's trying to prove that he's a man, that he's killed people before, and the 2 older guys, Eastwood and Freeman, they're essentially like, you don't know what you're messing with.
Like,
you're
cool
like,
kid.
yeah, like we've been there before, and it's not all it's cracked up to be. So in the end, the Schofield Kid ends up killing his first man.
Yeah.
And it's not what he thought it was. The guy he kills is also sitting on the toilet. He goes to the outhouse.
Yeah.
Schofield Kid goes, opens the door, shoots him. And then afterwards, it's not the glorified thing he thought it was.
No.
And he starts to break down a little bit.
Yeah.
And anyway, and then that's when Eastwood's character, Money, says...
He says, it's a hell of a thing killing a man. Take away all he's got, everything he's gonna have. And it's this like haunting thing. There are 9 deaths in this movie. The entire movie, only 9 people are killed, and every single one. Even at the end, I think that there's like 2 deaths up to that point.
Right.
Because there's the guy that they kill in the canyon.
Yep.
And then there's the 2 cowboys, and then the guys in the bar. I think that's it.
If you don't count. Are we doing spoilers in these things?
Yeah.
Okay, so spoiler, Morgan Freeman's character.
Morgan Freeman, yeah, okay,
as
that's
well.
true. I guess he would probably.
But they don't show it, which is
that.
fun.
Yeah.
It's like a surprise when you hear it. That was something I
'cause you
noticed.
don't know.
That like when she said he died, I thought you heard. It's a surprise to the audience
And to
William.
them.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Exactly. Isn't that fun?
I've seen this too many times and I never realized that.
Yeah.
Huh.
It's like what?
Fascinating.
Yeah. Kind of a fun reveal. Anyway, sorry. Back to the idea that not that many people die in this movie. Nine people die in this movie.
Yeah, every single one has a lot of weight. Like when they kill the kid in the canyon, it is like really heart-wrenching. Like it's gross to watch and to listen to. Because like Morgan Freeman, he tries and he can't do it. He knows that he can't get back to that life. He's the only one of them who was able to escape that life, and in the end, he's the only one that ended up killing.
Right.
Which is, tragic. But what is it? What did I write down here? When they shoot the cowboy, it's not a quick death. He goes slow, painfully, and they're forced to really live what they've done instead of it being a quick killing like in old westerns. Like you really get to see the horror of what they've done on both sides.
Yeah, being shot. Like this guy who, it's also interesting, he's the guy that dies who didn't do any of the crime. he didn't cut up the prostitute with the knife. He was the one who was trying to pull his friend off of her.
And he tried to give a little bit of retribution by personally giving her
a pony.
The best pony.
Right. And here he is being shot in the gut, a slow death.
Yeah. Screaming for water.
Yeah. And maybe that's the question is, did he deserve it? Yes, no, maybe so. Clint Eastwood's character, William Money, at one point says, we all deserve it. Like, did anybody deserve it? We've all got it coming to us. Yeah. Like, we've all done horrible things. Do any of us deserve peace or death? Like, he's like, we all deserve the death.
Yeah. It's like, this movie, like, so perfectly deconstructs the, like... Because, like, the spaghetti westerns have a very anti-hero kind of thing. We know that they're not good guys, but they're still better than the bad guys.
Right.
The classic, like, John Ford westerns and stuff, like, John Wayne is definitively the good guy. And this group is definitively the bad guys. This is a fight of good versus evil. And this movie just says, well, that's nonsense. That isn't anything. And, like, it's just so good. And I love that we get, like, a perspective character in the form of W.W. Benu or whatever, the writer.
Yes. That's an interesting subplot.
Yeah. So he comes into town with English Bob, who's the only one who's trying to hold on to his old Western persona, which then, we find out is completely fake because he's got this royal sounding accent. Excuse me. And then when he's being rolled out of town, he's got a Cockney accent. Yeah. So it was all a facade the entire time, which is very funny.
Yes.
But this guy is a writer, and he's writing a book about this dude. So he's creating these legendary stories that you would buy.
Yeah,
for like
he's chasing after the legends. Yeah.
And then the moment that guy, his legend gets revealed as fake, he's like, oh, whatever, and he moves on to Little Bill. So then Little Bill gets killed by Will, and he's like, oh, well, I want to know what you have to say. And I want to hear about what you have to say to me. And Will is just not about it.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not going to talk to you. Like, you don't understand what this is. And I've written the movie's a haunting condemnation of the morbid curiosity of people who don't understand the horror of things they can't understand. And I think that, like, that character, I don't remember his name. I think the guy's real name is like Ruben or something.
I can pull up the cast.
Yeah. Oops. But he's the audience perspective. Like, he's the old man who comes into this movie expecting it to be a Clint Eastwood Dirty Harry movie. Like, well, I want to see Clint Eastwood killing a bunch of guys. But instead, you come into this movie thinking that, and then it's telling you the entire time you're wrong. Like,
oh, Mr. Beauchamp.
Yes.
Beaucamp.
Yeah.
W.W. Beaucamp.
Exactly. That's what it is.
But he's also to some degree the audience, like who we are, which is, I'm expecting the cowboy movie. Tell me what it's like to be a gun for hire or a part of this Wild West. We're coming in 10, 15 years after the peak of the Wild West, and now people are starting to settle down, and this is when the novels are selling hot out east, and the authors are going out trying to document these stories, and are they true, are they not? We're starting to unravel this legend, just like we slowly see Eastwood's character's legend grow. I love that piece of the storytelling in this movie, that, like, we find out little bits and pieces more about him. Whether it's him having campfire conversations, that's where they're sitting talking about the old times, him
and the nightmares that he has and everything.
Exactly. Or he goes under a pen name, an alias, when he first shows up, and then when Little Bill figures out who he really is, you figure out, like, oh my gosh, this guy's done some horrible stuff. And I just love that it's gradually progressing that as he's trying to leave those memories and the alcohol behind him, and we're figuring out who he used to be, and then that's when you start to get into the thick of who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, who am I rooting for, what is justice,
because in the end, Little Bill is kind of in the right, ultimately, which is strange. I mean, because it's kind of like Chinatown, which. No, that's not Gene Hackman. Gene Hackman is French Connection. But Chinatown, which we also talked about on the show, you can go way back and listen to that one. It's a fine episode, I think. I don't remember. But that whole movie is about the moral gray and like how there is what is the true justice in this situation. Because at the beginning of the movie, when all this happens and they don't seemingly get real justice for what happens, the movie's still setting it up like it's going to be that kind of revenge movie. Like, well, we're going to hire a hired gun to come and get revenge on these guys. Before it starts humanizing the cowboys that they're going to go and hunt down and everything.
Right.
And makes everything feel much more realistic and more weighted. And Little Bill says at the time what seems like a very unjust thing. He turns to the lady in charge of all of the girls and says, haven't you seen enough killing for one day? Haven't you seen enough blood for one day? And in the moment, it's like, well, he's just trying to get her to shut up. But then you look back on it at the end of the movie, and when William is riding out of the town, you see, like, that same lady is just, like, she is confronting now the horror that they unleashed on the town. That, like, this wasn't now an isolated thing. Like, they brought this down on all of them.
Right.
Like, it's, this movie is so smart. It's so clever. The script is so good. The script apparently is, like, minutely changed from its original form.
Cool.
Like, usually they'll get a script and it'll have tons of revisions and red pen on it. And this one had like 2 small changes.
Wow.
Like, this is almost exactly as written.
Yeah.
And the dialogue is really good. It's that very like proper Old West English, which is I love, which really like sets you in the world. A lot of old Westerns don't really have that, weirdly. Like, they just sound like people in the time that the movies came out a lot of time.
Right.
But in 1992 or 3, whenever they made and then put this out, Clint Eastwood's like, I don't know what I'm doing because I'm a genius sometimes. And other times I make bad movies. But it's great.
It's also, we haven't touched on this, but I think we would be remiss if we didn't. But Clint Eastwood playing Bill Money, this troubled old cowboy, gun for hire, that is trying to put the past behind him, but is still like... You can see flashes of his deadliness, but he's trying to be a better guy. Obviously, and he was the guy of legend. He was the guy who did all those things.
Yeah.
And Clint Eastwood as the guy who's played all of those legends in the past, and so like almost like looking back on Eastwood's career now, as he's, I think in this movie he was like in his 60s. 50s, something?
When I've got notes about this. So when this movie is often thought of as like an epilogue or a spiritual sequel to the Dollars trilogy or The Outlaw Josie Wales.
Interesting.
The characters are very similar. I would say that it's more close to the Dollars trilogy just because Josie Wales is never shown to be like this really vicious kind of character, whereas The Man with No Name has much less of a moral compass. And it's really interesting looking at it from that perspective because there's a lot of things that line up, and I do look at this as like an epilogue to that trilogy. So I've got a few things here. Connections to the Dollars trilogy. This one's kind of nothing, but he wears a scarf throughout the movie that's kind of similar to the one The Man with No Name wears in his iconic outfit. Like The Man with No Name, William is indifferent to the problems of others until there's suddenly something he considers a moral issue. At that point, he'll hop in and like latch onto it.
Interesting.
The film itself is dedicated to Sergio Leone, who directed the Dollars trilogy. And this is the big one for me. The timeline of the films match up really well. So The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
How many years afterwards?
Yes. Yeah. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly takes place in 1861. Assuming that Blondie, which is what he's called in that one, he's called Joe in the first one, and I think something else. I don't remember what he is in the second one. But assuming Blondie was the same age as Eastwood at the time, which was 36, that would make him 55 in this movie, which takes place in 1880 and 1881. Which would match up pretty well with, it seems like, what he's trying to portray.
Sure.
In real life, he was 62 at the time of filming.
Gotcha.
So the timeline matches up really well for this to be a continuation of that character.
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating.
That's pretty fun. Yeah. Fun to kind of like retcon that a little bit.
Yeah.
Or I guess it's not really retconning. But
Yeah, I think that Eastwood himself has said that he kind of thought of it as a spiritual successor to at least just his previous films.
If anything, it's him as an actor.
Yeah.
As he's embodying the character that's what he's trying to embody.
It's kind of a weird meta, like WandaVision twist, like what they did with the Evan Peters, where they bring him in as Pietro, but it's like a meta kind of trick.
Right.
And I won't give away all what happens there, but like they're using the audience's foreknowledge as a tool against the audience,
right?
Which is fascinating, and it works really well. And like, there's not a lot of examples of that, and it just, man, I just love this movie, man.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. Anything you disliked about the movie? Let's talk about that.
I don't know. My initial thought is the score, but this is what I'll say about the score, because I've got my categories here: the script, score, cinematography, performances, and stuff like that. The sound design overall is fantastic. You feel like you're on the open plains with like the wind and the echoing of the canyons and stuff like that.
Sure.
Whatever. The way that the sound feels right and accurate, and it makes sense because they're shooting on location. But of course, like, lots of that is going to be Foley. And it's just done a really good job of really drawing you in and giving it this realism that the old movies don't have.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny, because spaghetti westerns are spaghetti westerns because they were filmed in like Spain and Italy, and therefore all of the supporting actors don't really speak English. So afterwards, they wouldn't shoot with sound, essentially, at all. So everything would be dubbed over after the fact. So you'll see... oh man, I can't remember the actor's name, but the guy who plays Tuco in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, a lot of his lines don't always match up to his lips.
Gotcha.
And that's the reason. So Lee Van Cleef and Clint Eastwood were the only ones half the time that were actually speaking English.
Wow.
And they just shot there because it was cheaper and because it looks like the Old West.
Yeah. When,
it didn't really in the U.S. anymore. So it's kind of funny then, in this movie, they also had a lot of really specific sound design, but kind of to bring the opposite effect.
Right.
Then the score is not really that impressive, but I think that's on purpose, because then it's such a stark contrast to these classic westerns with these huge, magnificent, iconic scores like The Magnificent Seven, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Fistful of Dollars, The Cowboys, like all of these that are just these massive, sweeping fanfares, or just like really moody, like Fistful of Dollars. And this movie just doesn't have that, and it just draws this great contrast to, this is a legendary story that has this legendary feel to it now, and then you have this movie that's very much placed in the real world, and so much of the tension and the feeling doesn't come from the music at all, because there's so little of it. It all comes from the actors and the overall sound design, which is like, it's so impressive. The whole confrontation between Little Bill and English Bob is super good.
Yeah, it is.
That
was really fun.
Yeah, he's got this like proper veneer over the top of him, and then the moment that he walks out of the barbershop and is surrounded by all these guns and sees Little Bill for the first time in who knows how long,
right?
It's gone.
Right.
And like, that facade is gone, and there's no music.
Yeah.
It's just silent, and it's them having this conversation, and it is so tense.
Yeah. Yeah, the score definitely doesn't get in the way of anything.
No, and even when it's there, it's super in the background.
Right, yeah.
It pops up a little bit when he starts kicking him on the ground, but it's really barely there.
Yeah. So while it's not maybe like groundbreaking score, it's also not distracting. It doesn't kill you. It doesn't take you out of the atmosphere at all.
I think it's a very deliberate choice, and I think it works really, really well. I don't know if I would call this a perfect movie. What have I put on this list? I've said Batman Begins, I think, is a perfect movie. Grand Budapest. I said another one last episode. I can't remember what it was. I don't know if I would. I might put this up there.
It's really good. I think I didn't really get the Bill Money with a fever. That dragged for me. I don't know if they needed that in the script. Beyond like the showing that he's an honorable man when like there's a bit of a love interest with Delilah, the cut up girl. she took care of him, and then there was a bit of love interest, and he said, I can't because of my wife who's dead, but he doesn't say that, Yeah. So I suppose there's some character building there, but it felt weird to me.
I think it draws an interesting parallel to Fistful of Dollars, in which he, is playing both sides of the conflict, gets captured, beat the crap out of him, and then he has to go and hide. And then when he comes back, is like, because he's heard like, oh, well, they've got these people taken hostage or whatever. I can't remember what it is in Fistful of Dollars. In Yojimbo, they've got the guy who was helping him, they've got him strung up.
Gotcha.
But then he comes back and deals out the final justice. So I didn't think about that until now, but that's an interesting parallel between the two movies, two similar Eastwood plots in the end. But that's fascinating. Yeah, I would agree. I think it does drag a tiny bit in the middle, but I think it's hard to fault it for that because it's trying so hard and succeeding so much at being just real and being exactly what it's supposed to be. Like, there is no lost time in this movie at all. Like, a lot of it is kind of drawn out, but it's very much to show like the realism of the situations.
Yeah.
Like, it's not cut down to make anything move quicker. It's not a grand sweeping adventure. It is it's it presents itself as an adventure story, as a revenge story, but it's really a tragedy. And of him, falling back into his old ways. And then we get in a sort of a epilogue at the end with the ending text crawl that maybe he went off and lived his life again. We don't know.
Went off to the coast with his kids.
Yeah, to San Francisco.
And opened a shop. Yeah.
I don't know.
Off of the plains.
But we don't know.
Yeah.
There's no way to know what actually happens in the end there. And I think that's interesting. And I like that. Because if they had tied it up in this perfect bow, then now it is one of those legendary stories.
Right.
But with it like this, we don't know what happened.
Right.
Who knows? It could be anything. This is just a thing that happened, and do with it what you will.
Yeah, I think that's fun as a one-off movie, that there's a story before that you don't know. There's a story after that you don't know.
Yeah.
But you get a glimpse of the story in the middle, and you wonder of what happened before, and you wonder what happened after.
Yeah.
But this is like a piece in someone's life that is...
Yeah.
I don't know. I think good stories do that.
It's like, this is like if there was no X-Men franchise and they just released Logan.
Yeah, sure.
Because like you get all these hints of like he goes and gets his friend Professor Xavier, and they have these hints of the past and everything, and then Professor Xavier dies,
right?
And then he becomes the Wolverine again,
right?
And there's a lot of parallels to Logan. That's interesting.
I think I remember when it came out. I think that someone drew. I think I read a review that tied it in with a Western movie. I'm pretty positive.
Oh, well, James Mangold is known for doing Westerns.
I
think he's doing another one. I can't remember. He did a pretty well-known Western. What did he do? Did he do 3:10 to Yuma?
Oh, might have been.
He definitely did. I think he did Hell or High Water, which is also kind of a neo-Western. Look it up.
3:10 to Yuma. Yep. And Night and Day. Let's not forget about that one.
Oh, classic.
Tom Cruise. Cameron Diaz.
It's not a terrible
Logan,
movie.
Ford versus Ferrari. I love that movie. We should talk about that sometime. Sorry. I digress.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if I would say it's perfect, but I don't know why I don't know why I would say that.
I think it was
great.
Agree.
Yeah.
I think it's just because it presents itself in such a plain way.
Yeah,
but
that could be.
But it's a hard, frustrating choice because I know that that's on purpose.
It feels maybe a little dated. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, perhaps. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I think that everything in this movie works, so I don't know why I wouldn't put it in that category yet. I'm not sure what it would be.
It's a good story.
It's very good.
And I think there's some really deep lines to chew on.
Oh yeah.
In general. I also think it's fun. I think it's fun if you're a fan of Western movies, and I think if you haven't watched this movie, you should go watch the other movies we've talked about first.
Yeah.
And I think that would create a greater appreciation for what you're experiencing here, or like at least go watch the Dollars trilogy beforehand. I think that would be fun. A fun way to do it. If you're into like a month of watching movies, if you've got time to watch a couple, I think that would
one a week.
I think that would make it more fun for you.
Yeah, Good Bad Ugly is pretty long, but it is really good. Really good movie about greed. Big fan. What else do I have here? The cinematography is fantastic. I think this movie is shot extremely well. Like, it's really beautiful, and there's nothing that can compare to shooting out on these huge vistas, these like massive landscapes. It does look like a Montana, kind of, a lot of the time on their journey.
Yeah, because they're close to the mountains. They're close to the Rockies.
There's a lot of grassland and tall trees.
I think they say something about being in high country at some point.
Gotcha.
So yeah, they are
High Plains Drifter.
Yep. Yeah.
Fun fact: Richard Harris, who plays English Bob and Albus Dumbledore in the first two Harry Potter movies.
Oh yeah, before he died.
Yep. He was watching High Plains Drifter on TV when he got the phone call from Clint Eastwood asking him to be in the movie.
Oh, that's crazy. Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's kind of fun. But I think it's shot really well. There's something about just like the natural light, that really hard lighting that you get on the planes that just like it makes it feel so much bigger and more grand. Like it's obviously not on a studio set. And I don't know what it is about that necessarily. Like, I just watched the remake of Magnificent Seven recently.
Yeah.
And it's got this like gritty Zack Snyder lighting over the top of it, and it just looks bad.
Right. I was gonna ask you about where you felt like this movie sits within other more modern westerns.
Modern westerns.
I was reading something after I watched it that they made the argument, and this was like, I think 5 years ago was the article I was reading. They made the argument that this was the last great western, that this is like the end of an era for western movies.
Yeah, I would say this is like a bookend of classic westerns.
Would you agree with that?
I think so. I don't know. I think the only kind of stuff that's come out recently has been like fine. There's nothing that's really stellar. You know, there was Hostels with...
What about... did you ever watch The Ballad of Buster Scruggs?
It's fine, but it's certainly not a classic in my opinion.
Okay.
It's a series of vignettes. I don't know that I could put it even on the same category necessarily.
Okay, gotcha.
But yeah, I really like the remake of True Grit. That's really, really good.
Oh, sure. Okay.
I would give that one a lot of love. I put that right up there with Unforgiven easily, because that also, like, interestingly, in comparison to the original True Grit, and this is a bit of a rabbit trail, but that's fine. The original True Grit was very much like a spaghetti western in that it was very much the realism aspect of everything. Like, it's definitely, I think that and The Cowboys is probably the two most realistic westerns that John Wayne ever did. And they definitely kept that for the most part in this one. It's the Coen brothers, so it's going to be a little bit heightened and weird. But I think that it works really, really well, and it definitely does that really well. I don't know, there's a lot of good modern westerns, though. There's a lot of neo-westerns, like Hell or High Water, which is really, really good. If you haven't seen that, you should watch it. It's fantastic.
What's the new one that just came out with Tom Hanks? Have you seen that one?
I haven't.
It's on Apple TV. So
I've heard that it's good.
Oh, okay. I have my dad. We have a year-long subscription to Apple TV for switching to Verizon, so I might check it out. Speaking of which, sorry, I'll save it for things I'm watching. I'll save it for things I'm watching.
What else do I have here? Performances. Everyone in this is incredible. Blah, 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 blah. Will becomes more hardened as the job goes on, fully becoming his old self at the final shootout. Yep. So the whole movie, and this is pretty obvious, but it's the kind of thing that you're gonna see. Like, did you know this? So like, if I don't mention this, someone's gonna like be like, did you see the entire movie? Clint Eastwood William Money is like, I don't drink. I haven't done that for like decades. I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
The moment that he hears that Ned is dead, he picks up the bottle and drinks right out of it.
Yes. Yeah.
And you can just see the resolve that like he knows what he's gonna do.
Right.
And he's ready to do it.
Right. Yeah. Also, like, suddenly when there is like true revenge on the line here, like once that happens, he drinks the whiskey, and then he goes and like when there's like, I don't want to say like a just cause, but maybe a bit more of a just cause than he didn't have his heart in it before. Suddenly he's back to his old self. Yeah. Like he is the legend again when he's avenging Ned.
Huh.
And
interesting.
Like, I don't know, like character wise, it fits. Like the whole movie, he can't get on his horse. He can't shoot straight. It takes multiple shots to kill the cowboy.
And even then, he just gets him in the gut.
Right. Yeah. And so like he's off. And then once he finds out that Ned's dead, it's like something in him, It feels it again. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is interesting.
And Schofield sees that.
Yeah.
Like, he knows that. So, like, he's telling him, like, you're not coming with me? Like, what he says, what about the spectacles, the fancy clothes, because he's blind?
Yeah.
He says, guess I'd rather be blind, ragged, and dead. It's like, that's heavy.
Yeah.
And, like, the way that he says it, too, is much less deadpan than I did there, because he's, like, broken down and kind of, like, crying and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's, like, it's really weighty at the end of the movie, because like so little. It's like what I talked about Watchmen. However, I bring this up so often now, but how there's like so little violence up until the very last moment. So suddenly, it has huge weight behind it.
Right.
So he gets there, and now everyone knows who he is. They can see that he has this resolve, and they're clearly all terrified. And you can even see it in Little Bill.
Yeah.
That he's got like this. That's not as freaked out as everyone else, but he's rattled,
Right.
which is what he talks about earlier in the movie, is you don't have to be the fastest one, you just got to be calm and collected. And you can see in that moment that William is, and he is not.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So, like, I love they highlight that a ton in that scene, because everybody in the room is shooting wildly.
Yeah.
And you cut back to Eastwood, and he's just going, bang!
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4. Like, you can count the seconds, and then bang! And he hits every single shot, but there's a huge space between all of them.
Right.
It's like he's thinking very, very carefully about every shot. It's so the script is so good. It just like this movie's so smart.
Yeah. I'd say like overall my overarching feeling after watching it was like, I felt more than I realized I would feel.
Yeah.
I felt kind of gross on the inside while you watch it. Like, oh, this isn't fun. Like this isn't a fun Western.
And it's not preaching to you.
No, yeah. But it does, at the end of it, you go like, man, the West was like not that cool. Or like you get done with it and you're like, I don't want to go play Red Dead Redemption.
It like romanticizes it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But it's not preaching at you. But in the end, you're like, man, violence is really cruddy.
Yeah.
Like people shouldn't kill each other. It's like what I want for the characters the whole time is like, Ned, go turn around and be with your wife.
Yeah.
Or like Bill Money, go back and be with your kids.
Yeah.
Like this is not, I think there's like I think that's what you were saying is that it's what word did you use earlier? It's a tragedy that you're like, oh, these deaths are tragic. I wish people were not doing this. And it's not preachy. It just is like in the reality of it. I'm like, that sucks.
Yeah. It's like it's a heavy but kind of hopeful ending.
Yeah.
That like they maybe go off and have a better life.
Yeah.
And it's funny. There's a lot of talk about this movie as a sequel to Josie Wales or the Dollars trilogy. There is also a good amount of, and not as seriously, but there's a lot of conversation about this movie as a far prequel to Dirty Harry, because the ending text. So he's this guy who's got violence in his blood and everything, and Dirty Harry's the cop that flies off the wheel and everything like that. He doesn't play by the rules, and he's played by Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
At the end of the movie, where does it say they go?
San Francisco.
San Francisco, which is where Dirty Harry takes place.
Gotcha.
So a lot of people see like maybe William Money is like a long like great grandfather of Harry Callahan.
Gotcha. Wow.
Which is kind of funny.
That is kind of funny.
Yeah. I enjoy that. Let's see. Do I have anything else written here? This is my song. Here's something cool. Clint Eastwood wears the same boots in this movie as he did in Rawhide, essentially bookending his career in westerns.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fun. Aw.
Yeah. Adjusted for inflation, the $1,000 bounty on the Cowboys would come to about $25,500 in 2021 money.
It's also super fun.
Yep.
Wow.
What else do I have? I don't know. I think that's
which makes sense when he's like, I need the money to get a head start for my kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, like to get them going.
It's like $1,000.
Yeah.
Which is then also the same money that Skinny spent on the bar, apparently, buying the bar, Greeley's.
Oh.
Yeah. Because he offhand says, I bought the place from old man Greeley for $1,000.
Interesting. Yeah.
Thought that was fun.
Cool. Wow.
Yeah. So
should we wrap it up?
Yeah. Unforgiven, yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah, emphatically, yes.
Yeah.
I love this movie. I think it's fantastic. I think everyone should watch it at least once. It's really good. It's heavy, but it's not like you don't come out of it depressed. Like but it hits you.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah, it's
Check
very
it out.
good. It's enjoyable to watch. It was an enjoyable storyline.
Yes.
Marshall, what you watching? What you reading? What you consuming besides the jazz music?
Well, shut up.
Oh.
Because, first of all, we got to talk about what movies are like kind of similar to this movie.
Oh,
If you like
okay,
this,
yeah,
if you like Unforgiven,
I skipped a step.
if you like Unforgiven, this is movies that you might also like. There is actually a remake of this movie, starring Ken Watanabe from Inception.
Oh.
He's the guy who hires them to do the job in Inception.
Why did they feel like they needed to remake it? I didn't know that.
It's just an interesting kind of reimagining. So it's a fun kind of tribute in reverse, because the modern Western kind of came out of classic samurai movies. So then they've taken this and put it in the post-shogunate Japan.
Nice. Speaking of which,
which I haven't seen.
War, let's play that.
I would.
Sorry. Anyway,
I haven't seen it, but I would love to. I've heard that it's pretty good. Not as good as this, but like a quality watch.
2013.
Yeah. And Ken Watanabe is awesome. The Dollars trilogy, of course. A lot of Clint Eastwood westerns you could put up there. Pale Rider, High Plains Drifter, The Outlaw Josie Wales, all that stuff. And if you want to really go back, then you should watch Seven Samurai and Yojimbo, which are both fantastic movies directed by the great Akira Kurosawa, who is fantastic. Do you have any things to add on to that list?
I was going to throw on, like, we had brought up that Logan would be kind of a fun parallel.
Yeah, Logan would be really good, actually.
Yeah.
I kind of want to watch Logan now. I have it.
Let's do it.
I can watch it.
In 4K?
Yeah, I think so. I think I have the ultra high def.
Well, let's go.
With the black and white version, too.
Yep, let's do it.
Yeah.
Sweet. There's a black and white version?
Yeah, there is.
That's
They
sick.
took the color out.
That's cool.
Yeah, and now it's just black and white. No more colors.
Have you watched that version?
I watched like half of it and then I had to go. Yeah.
Cool.
To the bathroom. Big pooping! That's my new catchphrase.
Is it?
Yeah.
Since when?
Big pooping!
Who says that?
That's what I say here in the lounge.
Oh, the jazz combo is.
Yeah, when I need to go,
yeah.
I've got like this, my TV tray here
in the lounge,
with my notes and my coffee
and
my tobacco and my pipes and my whiskey
Mm-hmm.
and other kinds of things.
Yeah.
And if I need to go to the bathroom, I yell, "Big poopin'!" And then the waiter, whose name is...
Ooh, I'm forgetting what his name is.
It's his name now.
Oh, I thought there was we have a chef named...
The chef is Alphonse.
It's Alphonse.
Yeah, Alphonse the chef.
How could you
mix Alphonse up with
Jerry?
Jerry, the waiter.
Yeah.
Our waiter, Jerry. Who brings us all of our things. And when I say, "Big poopin'," he comes and picks up my TV tray.
"Hello, sir. Can I get your tray from you?"
That's a very offensive accent.
Jerry.
He would be offended if he heard you do that.
Well, don't let him hear us. We just got to stop yelling "big poopin'."
Okay. Wait. Okay, we're good.
Okay.
He knows I'm joking.
He's not coming over here. He didn't pay attention.
He's kind of terrible at his job.
That's great.
Alphonse has got him on like 4 strikes on a 10-strike system.
Jerry. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that what Alphonse sounds like?
What do you think Alphonse sounds? How would you impersonate Alphonse?
How would I impersonate Alphonse?
Yeah.
I wouldn't dare offend him in such a way like you would.
Right.
You racist.
Well, Alphonse. He's more Italian, isn't he? He's Alphonse. What kind of word is Alphonse?
I don't know.
It's me. I'm Alphonse. And Jerry is. I can't do this.
Yeah?
Yeah, he's probably Italian though.
Okay.
He makes pizza.
He's Italian, and he does make pizza.
Yeah.
Flat pizzas.
He doesn't sound
and
like...
he makes homemade Baby Ruths.
Musketeers.
And 3 Musketeers.
3 Musketeers.
There's options.
There's a lot going
Twizzlers.
on. Twizzlers. Dots.
We do have Twizzlers here.
Reese's Pieces.
And not...
Red Vines.
Red Vines.
Yeah, I like Red Vines.
That's fine. Tell that to Alphonse. Okay?
Okay, I don't think I will. I don't
see what he thinks.
No,
I'll call him over here right now.
No, it's fine.
I'll call Alphonse.
No, it's fine.
Are you sure?
No, it's fine. I'm good.
Okay. I'm fine. I thought I needed...
Your Twizzlers are great.
We love them.
Yep. Anywho. So yeah. We said yes. Watch the movies.
Yes.
Yes. Marshall, what have you been consuming out of the lounge here?
Well, I watched a lot of movies recently.
Oh,
I've started a new thing where if I want to watch a movie, I go to the Last Chance section on HBO, and the first thing that I see that even vaguely interests me, I watch it.
Does stuff actually leave HBO?
Yeah.
That sucks. How often? What
I
have I missed?
every month.
Ugh.
It's like Netflix. New stuff and old stuff every month.
It's on it right now. Anyway,
so
what have you been
watched. There's some horror movies on there right now. I was in a horror kick a while ago.
Oh.
But I watched a bit ago. I watched Jacob's Ladder, which is a movie starring Tim Robbins, which is really good. It's fascinating. It's wild. It's definitely rated R.
Okay.
But he's like a Vietnam War vet who has come back to the States and is started experiencing these like terrifying visions. And the question throughout the movie is basically, is he insane or is this stuff real? And it's really good. And there is a definitive answer at the end.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's kind of fun.
It's not something that you would expect. And the ending is a kind of ending that generally is something that I would find really upsetting and frustrating. But it works really well in this movie. Like, this is a horror movie. And after it, I was like, this is fine. And I'm going to go, like, take a jog outside in the dark. Like, it was freaky the entire time. And at the end, I was satisfied.
Oh, that's good.
Which is weird.
That's good. That's how I feel. That's how I felt with both of the Get Out and what's the other one?
Us.
Both of those I felt the same. Like, at the end, I was like, I'm satisfied.
Us would probably spook me out a bit just because, like, the idea of people breaking into your home and stuff. Oh, yeah.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's as scary as Get Out. It's definitely more of a true horror movie than Get Out, which is a thriller, I would say. But I don't know.
Anyway,
I watched that. I watched A League of Their Own about the first female baseball league.
That one's fun.
It's good.
That's a classic.
Yeah, it's fun.
That one plays on Freeform all the time.
Does it?
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't think it was the greatest movie of all time, but I think it was really good for what it was, and I enjoyed it. I was curious, and I'm not sure. I didn't look it up, but I was wondering if the old women at the end were the actual women.
Oh, I don't actually know. That might be true. That's something they would do, I feel like.
Yeah.
Huh.
I don't know. Because I don't think that any of them were wearing makeup. Like, I don't think any of them, like Gina Davis wasn't wearing, like, old woman makeup or anything like that. So I'm pretty sure, I think it could be. And if so, man, Rosie O'Donnell was perfect casting because that old woman sounded exactly like Rosie O'Donnell.
Yeah.
And maybe they overdubbed them. I don't know. I thought it was weird that in the epilogue part there that all of the photos were still of all the actors and stuff.
Yes.
I thought it would make more sense if it was the actual pictures and stuff. But, you know.
It's fine. Yeah.
Whatever. Splitting hairs. And then I watched The Candidate starring Robert Redford.
Oh, nice.
Which is a 1970s political satire that doesn't really play as like a comedy at all. It's directed by the guy who directed Fletch.
Okay, nice.
Which, you know, I don't think Fletch is that good.
I saw it in middle school, so I didn't laugh at it then, but as an adult I might find it funny.
It's fine. I like Chevy Chase as a comedic actor.
But you have to watch it with people who like Fletch.
Yeah. It's good. It's really good.
Cool.
It's fascinating, and it's got a really interesting ending that kind of leaves you thinking. I would suggest it. It's very good. It's Robert Redford and Peter Boyle. It's really good.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
For those who are wondering, if you want to do what Marshall's doing and go to the Leaving Soon thing for HBO Max or any of your streaming services, if you need something to watch, HBO Max will be losing, let's see, School of Rock. It'll be losing The Hangover Part 2. It'll be...
Put good things on your list, Ben.
It'll be losing Red Tails, which I don't think is that good.
I said put good things.
Jojo Rabbit.
That's pretty good.
Just Mercy is also really good.
Yep.
Both of those are leaving, so go watch those if you haven't. Castaway is on here.
Castaway is very good. Penny Marshall didn't do that one. That's Bob Zemeckis directed that.
That might be the only things worth watching. The Invisible Man will also be leaving.
Invisible Man's awesome.
I have not seen that.
Castaway, another movie with a very scarce soundtrack. There's no music the entire time he's on the island.
Huh. I did not realize that.
Yeah, did you know his name is Chuck Noland, which if you shorten it is C No Land?
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Pretty great.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, those are the things that are worth watching.
Yeah. Have you been looking at anything?
Oh yeah, I started, I was reminded earlier, having a free trial for Apple TV,
Ooh.
I've been watching Ted Lasso.
I've heard good things.
It's so good, dude. There was a lot of hype going into it. My dad was really into it.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things that I heard a lot of hype and I was like, I'm sure it's great. I just don't have time right now. And now that I've started it, it's like, why did I wait to start watching this? It's so good. I saw the SNL skit back in the day.
Is it based on an SNL?
It's based off an SNL skit where a football coach goes and is a coach of a Premier League team, and he's in the SNL skit. He's the coach of like my Premier League team that I follow, Tottenham Hotspur. So it's based on the SNL skit. So go watch the SNL skit because it's super funny. But then, yes, they turned it into a show, which is really interesting, and it's so good, dude. It's really wholesome. Really, really wholesome and really funny for how wholesome it is, because he's like this, like, the whole like funny bit is that everyone in England is like trying to make him look dumb.
He's kind of inept a little bit.
And he is inept to it, but like not so much like, not in an inept way where you feel bad for them. You know how some people don't like The Office because you get cringy because Michael is so inept or so oblivious. He's inept, but in a really wholesome, happy way.
Endearing.
Where or like, you know, there's even like a bit where like they're trying to frame him to make it look like he's sleeping with the girlfriends of one of his players, and like I know, and so but then like somehow they like make that wholesome because you know he's like true at heart the whole time.
Yeah.
And it's so good. You have to watch it.
Okay.
I would actually like pirate it if you have to.
Give me your Apple login.
VPN, download some stuff.
Because you can use a VPN on a service that you don't have.
I don't know how. I mean, I'm sure people have pirated it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
I'm a good Christian boy. I don't pirate.
Right.
Except for Game of Thrones.
I feel like pirating things from Apple TV originals feel as though I will condone pirating them because I feel like there's only a couple of reasons to get Apple TV.
I only condone pirating Quibi.
What? that might be.
Isn't Quibi coming back?
I have no clue.
I don't know. This isn't a new show anymore.
Yeah, what a disaster.
That's not what this show's about.
Yes. Anyway, everybody go watch Ted Lasso because it's really good. It's really good.
Another thing.
Yeah.
I've been listening to so here's the thing that exists.
Okay.
That you probably know about.
Yeah.
But it's a weird thing to exist.
Yeah.
Did you know that President Obama and Bruce Springsteen have a podcast?
No, I did not.
They do.
That's awesome.
Isn't that weird?
How is that?
It's really good.
Really?
Yes.
Is it just them chatting?
Yeah, more or less. And they talk about it in the first episode of like how they became friends.
Speaking of starting a podcast and not really being famous enough to get rolling, no wonder I haven't heard of it.
Exactly. These guys.
Who are
these little
Barack
no-names?
Obama and
they're
Springsteen.
little up-and-comers. I think that they've got bright futures ahead of them.
Yeah. Anyway,
but
they
it's
talk
really
about how
good.
they were friends.
They talk about how they became friends and stuff like that. And, how like this image that Bruce created for himself and everything is like the working man, but he's never done a working day in his life and everything like that. And, it's really interesting. And then they talk about like different topics, like they talk about race and their relationships with their fathers and stuff like that. And it's really good.
Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's not really political either, I would say. So if you are averse to an Obama podcast, I would say give it a shot. I think that he's a really a man that I would personally admire.
Yeah.
And I think hearing his thoughts on a lot of these things has like really reinforced that.
Yeah.
Like it's fascinating. And
That's
Bruce
cool.
too. I didn't know all of this stuff about Springsteen. But it's fascinating hearing about where he's come from.
Yeah.
It's really good. This contrast between like Bruce, who came up in the counterculture movement, and then President Obama, who was kind of a result of it. It's fascinating.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's worth listening to.
That's really, really neat.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, just interesting people. If anything, their stories are interesting.
Yeah.
And like them as people, they're interesting people.
Yeah,
So
it's called Renegades.
Unique perspectives.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really sweet. Cool.
Renegades. Something about America.
Is that what it is?
That's the title.
Something about America.
Something about America. No, it's just called. It's Renegades, and then
trusting
there's
you.
some other subtitle. It's something about America. I don't know.
Okay. So look it up wherever podcasts are found.
Yeah, it's
Shout
on
out to them.
Spotify original.
We'll plug them if they plug us. That's what I always
That's
say.
right. Screw them. Shut up, Springsteen.
Yeah.
Born in the USA. More like probably.
That song.
More like born in Kenya.
That song. Don't you start that. Also, what a song that really shouldn't be played on the 4th of July, because it's really not pro
man, you know what?
USA.
Hey, I think a protest song is the most patriotic song that there can be.
Hey, that's a good perspective. I think the people who play it don't realize that. But yeah.
They talk about that on the show,
Do
actually. They
Nice.
talk about, I think in the last episode, they talked about like musical idols of theirs.
Huh.
And they had an interesting, and this is, we'll wrap up the show in a second here.
Yeah.
But they had an interesting thought on, like, President Obama basically said that he thinks that cultural appropriation is nonsense.
Huh.
Which is interesting to me.
Yeah.
Because he's just like, listen, if you want to appreciate something, I think that everything should be for everybody.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's fascinating to hear from like this man. And then like Springsteen, like, I think he was waiting for Barack to say it first, because he was like, I don't want to like step on any weird toes or anything.
Right.
But then he like wholeheartedly agreed with him, and it was
especially
really interesting,
especially musically, or like
Springsteen
everybody influences everything.
Talks a lot about how like his musical idol, what got him into all this stuff, was seeing Elvis on the Ed Sullivan Show for the first time, and then Elvis being a controversial figure because he was the guy that they brought to the fame and everything, because the people at the time didn't think that they could get this music, which was black music, to be marketable without this handsome young Southern man.
Right.
So there's like the controversy there, of like cultural appropriation and what that looks like and is like what they did wrong. And it's, I don't know, listen to the show.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah.
And watch Unforgiven.
Cool.
And watch the streams that we're eventually going to do.
Yeah.
I think I'll let you get married, and then we'll figure out what that schedule will look like. We'll see about that. Oh, I have. Do I? Stay right there.
Okay. I'm staying here. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's just me in a room full of Marshalls in the cinema lounge. Just let me tell you about this whiskey I'm drinking. It's Glenmorangie, 20 years aged, Scotch, very peaty. I am making this up. I don't actually have a whiskey in my hand. It's actually 4 p.m. It's a little early for me to drink a whiskey. Not much of a get off work and drink a whiskey kind of person. I'm more of a get off work and have some water or maybe a cup of coffee if I'm feeling crazy. But I've been trying not to do that so much recently because of the half-life of caffeine. I think that stays in the system, and I'd like to be able to go to sleep at a good time. I've been working on that recently. Self-improvement, trying to be in bed by 9:30, 9:45, somewhere around there. Maybe reading, winding down, phone put to bed in another room.
Say that part
it's
again?
good for me.
Beginning part of there about self-improvement?
Self-improvement. Home improvements. Yeah.
I was trying to find the invitation to your reception.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to give it to you.
Oh, with a yes on it?
Well.
Will you be there?
So it says the two options are happily accept or regretfully decline.
Right.
I had to do a little bit of editing.
Do you regretfully accept?
I regretfully accept.
That's fun.
I was really funny, but I can't find it.
I will regretfully see you there.
Yeah.
It's great.
Great.
Cool. Thanks for that's exciting for me.
Yeah, and
Can't
give
wait
me
to
the
see it.
time and place right here on the show so everyone can show up.
No.
It's great.
I won't.
But yeah, we're going to do some stuff eventually, and it'll be great, and you can watch it. But in the meantime, if you want to contact the show, you can get in contact with us at, I guess now, Cinema Lounge on Instagram.
Oh, great.
Which I will change promptly. And I'm at
Have you Googled
_art.
to see if there's any other
I did.
cinema lounges? Oh,
I
great.
did, yes.
That's great. Fantastic.
All that came up was like Alamo Drafthouse stuff. So
Great.
I think
That's
that we're good there.
fantastic. Look at us being original.
I know, right?
Heck yeah.
I was really lucky because I only looked it up like a day ago because I'm like, wait, I should probably do the Google search.
That's fantastic.
But yeah, Cinema Lounge on Instagram, and eventually I'll have an email set up for that. I don't know if you can just change an email address. I don't know. But there'll be that, and then I'm at mparish_art on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. So there's all of those. I think that's everything. We're the Great Scub Do on YouTube, SCUBDU. Mm-hmm. I was told that it's a hard word to spell, and I say it too fast, so I said it slower that time, Eric.
That's nice.
I think that he has gotten name dropped every single episode.
Yeah.
Last few episodes.
Faithful. Love you, man.
He's a handsome young gentleman
Kiss
with a nice
you.
caterpillar on his nose.
Kiss you. Kiss you.
Kiss you.
It's
Eric.
better than love you. A holy kiss.
What is it?
You know what holy I'm
The mouth.
talking about. It's the mouth hole.
Okay.
Yes.
But that's been the show.
Good first episode of the Cinema Lounge.
Yes. Thank you for joining us in the Cinema Lounge.
So much
We'll
jazz.
see you in here in 2 weeks. And what are we going to do in the next 2 weeks, Ben?
We're going to watch and talk about... What's the movie? I'm blank. Starship Troopers.
Oh, are we? Is that what we're going to do?
Yeah, I thought so.
Okay.
Right? Oh, great. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Great.
And then...
And then what?
And then... What after that?
I don't know what's after
Then
that.
what's after that?
I don't know what it is. Godzilla. Oh, yeah. Well, oh, yeah. Should we do that sooner? No. We'll watch some old Godzilla movies, talk about the new one.
Yeah. Gives people time to watch tons of movies.
Yeah, so many Godzilla movies that you're all going to watch. I know it.
I'm gonna watch a ton of Godzilla movies. They're all on HBO, basically.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna talk about what we think about them. But then next week, Starship Troopers. Next week being the next 2 weeks.
Yep.
And then after that, the next one.
Cool.
Cool.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a good jazz time.
Have a good jazz time.
Yep.
Thanks everybody for listening. I've been Marshall.
I have marshaled Ben.